that brings me now to Andrew Mitchell, right? So the reason, my understanding is you've been following this case. This was a member of that disbanded unit, another person who finds himself in trouble with the law. But as I mentioned at the beginning, he was acquitted of these charges. He was acquitted of killing this woman. I don't know how much you followed of the entire trial, if you watched him on the stand. What was your reaction to that verdict?
Shocking. I mean, if you look at what happened, I think that Ms. Castleberry's reaction and behavior was completely justified. You ask an officer to show you his badge and he doesn't have it. I would have done the same thing, honestly, as she did. It's self-defense. She didn't continue to attack. She left the weapon. He was free and clear. He could have run away. You know what I mean? It was honestly, it was really heartbreaking.
Why?
And I just feel like she didn't get justice. And there's a lot of things at play here, and it's sad.
When you say there's a lot of things at play, why do you think he was acquitted?
I mean, like I said, all the evidence proves or points to that Ms. Castleberry was acting in self-defense, and it wasn't even excessive. It's not like he got out of the car and she jumped out and chased him and stabbed him in the back. Like, she was actively struggling with a man that she believed was trying to injure her and or kidnap her. Once she got free, she tried to flee. She tried to run away. And it's just, I think that perhaps it's because they're trying to protect their own, or police officers, or because she was a sex worker or a prostitute, or because she was known to have an addiction, or because she was Black, although that's strange because he is. I mean, I don't see how anybody could look at this incident and not find him guilty.
I'm curious, you mentioned that, stigmatizing people in the sex industry. Do you think if she wasn't a part of it, this would have been a different result?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. We are regularly not given justice by using our jobs, which are, used against us and put on the stand. I don't know if you know this, but when I was in court in January of 22 with Michael Avenatti, his charges from the FBI were wire fraud and forgery and nothing that has to do with my job at all. And on the stand, they brought into question that I had been a porn star, that I was an actress, because I was an actress, that I was good at acting, and because I did an adult film, I was good at faking things, if you catch my drift. And they tried to put doubt in the jurors' minds by questioning my credibility because of what I did for a living. And I believe that absolutely had an impact here, even more so for Ms. Castleberry, because she was not a stripper or a actress in adult films. She was an actual prostitute, add in the fact that she had a known addiction, add in the fact that she was young and that she was Black. All those things stacked against her. And I do believe that justice was not served in this case, and 2 young daughters lost their mom that they'll never see again.
It's a tragic case, but look, he had 2 trials. One was ultimately a mistrial. This jury acquitted him. He does face these federal charges, which I mentioned are so disturbing. The allegations were that he trapped women, forced them to perform sex acts and then he would let them out. When you hear something like this by a police officer, are you like, oh, I've heard that before, or is this totally out of left field?
I mean, we've all heard things like that, that's a big theme in movies and television shows about, police officers. But to think that it was so viscerally real, it's like a slap in the face and really terrifying. And I believe because he had a history of doing this, that he'd gotten away with so many times, he just got too big for his britches and did this to Ms. Castleberry. And same thing, he still got away with it.
Well, maybe not. I mean, let's see what happens with his case. I mean, that's the end of the result. I mean, I mentioned to you that he was charged with these crimes. Rosser's been sentenced. There is this sense of, you have to go after the bad actors. I am curious if I throw this argument to you, because people will say, well, listen, these units, these vice units, they may have engaged in improper tactics. They might have broken the law, but there are units like these across the country. They're important. They target specific crimes. What would you say that there's a danger that they're going to disband these units that might actually do good in different parts of the country? What would your response be to that?
I don't think that's true at all. I think these police units in other places have nothing to worry about if they haven't done anything improper.
Yeah.
I was on a squad in a different city. I would actually encourage investigations and protocol being followed and weeding out and making examples of the vice unit, such as in Columbus. Don't let a bad apple spoil the whole thing. And if you're not doing anything bad, then you have nothing to worry about. All it takes is a couple of cases like this to, leave a bad taste in people's mouth and disband. So I think it needs to be nipped in the bud. And if these officers in other cities who are doing good and being effective and doing it correctly, they should have nothing to worry about. They should also want these bad officers, eliminated.
The big theme when I think about Stormy Daniels is that you've said so many things and people didn't take you seriously, and they maybe should have. And that's the thing. When you were saying this was happening to you by the Vice Squad, and it turned out you were right. And I mean, the idea of your life, and people didn't necessarily believe the things that you were saying. What lesson do you want that to move forward with?
I mean, and it's a thing that I battle every day still.
Yeah.
You didn't see a single headline or a mention of my name that didn't have porn star in front of it. And people just automatically discredited me as a liar and that I was a gold digger or untrustworthy. Now, do you think that would have been as much the case if it said accountant Stormy Daniels or school teacher Stormy Daniels or anything other than porn star in front of it? And I think that is really scary, because just because you work in the sex industry or a sex worker doesn't mean you don't know right from wrong.
Right.
And I think that was especially true in a lot of these girls in Ohio's cases, because they were often younger and they often were doing something that wasn't legal, and they were easily intimidated and they were scared, and they didn't have the platform that I luckily had access to, where I did have this, I did have a name and was known, and I did have an excellent legal team and outlets, to the press. These girls have nothing. Yeah. And they're intimidated and terrified. And I understand that, because the same thing happened to me, that people tried to bully me and intimidate me. And I just, dug my heels in and said, no way. But I can't imagine what it would be like for somebody who was genuinely terrified or had something to lose, or even if that thing was as simple as being outed to their family. Yeah.
Look, listen, I think that you shed important light on this squad, and it might not have come to light if like a story that wasn't like yours was amplified so much. So I appreciate you talking about that. Now, Stormy, while I do have you here, I wouldn't be doing my job as a journalist if I didn't at least ask you, what is it like for you right now? I mean, this is such an incredible time. We have the former president indicted. He was arraigned. What is going on with you right now? What is life like for you right now?
So to kind of tie it all in and circle back, I really understand where these women in Ohio are coming from, because the first wave of this for me back in 2018 was pretty crazy. And at first, nobody wanted to listen to me. They thought I was capitalizing because all the facts hadn't come out. They thought I just randomly appeared when he was running for president. It wasn't until later, no, this is well known before the story was whatever. But I did get a lot of hate constantly, whether it was, in public or mostly online on social media. But it was the tone that is so different now. For every 100 messages I got back then, one might be kind of scary or a death threat. Most of them were like slut, gold digger, liar, whore, whatever. It was just kind of like that name calling, which doesn't bother me. You have to work to work in the adult business, you have to have a pretty thick skin anyway. And and they were usually bot accounts or, people hiding who they really were or just making an account just to say something mean to me. Now it is very different. And I think that the part of that is, and I'll just go ahead and say it, I think that, Trump has created this narrative of inciting violence and encouraging bad behavior, like with the January 6th riots and telling people death and destruction, like stand up, that now they're braver and they feel like they're actually doing their patriotic duty and that I'm ruining the country. So before it was 1 in 100 would be a specific kind of scary threat. Now it's like at least 50%. And these people aren't hiding anymore. I told you they used to do like from fake accounts or hide their true identities. Now they're not scared. Yeah. They're emailing and messaging and texting from their actual phone numbers. I can do reverse lookup and find who they are. And on Twitter, instead of making a fake account that has 0 followers and their only tweet is to talk, shit to me, it's their regular accounts. They're not hiding. They're brave, and they are. I've attributed them in the past to like suicide bombers. They believe in their heart and soul that they are doing the right thing and that I am the bad person and Trump is going to reward them. And it's really scary, and it's constant and it's nonstop. And I've had to move several times. As we know, I've had security. It is scary. Luckily for me, I don't work in a job that I can be fired from. I don't have family that can be intimidated or things like that. But it is nonstop, and it does start to wear on you. And this time around, it is, like I said, it is much scarier, and the tone is different.